I was just finding myself very feeling overwhelmed by being so counterculture with my message.
Mm.
Because in 2018, it was all about getting a bag, being a boss bitch, excuse my language, but it was just all about like in the sector that I was in, or the space that I was in was women's empowerment,
Mm.
African American women's empowerment, entrepreneurship, and hustle and bustle. And so which is essentially the American way, right?
Right.
And so I just found myself like, is my message not popular enough? Should I give up? And I was just like, God, you have to give me something that can help women understand that they can integrate well-being and work ethic so they don't have to compromise either one. And so through meditation and prayer, I got the download affirmation music. And I was like, oh my God, this is
Mm.
such a brilliant idea. And so
I'm just so grateful that you agreed to come on Hopeful Tribe because we're such a tiny new channel. But I just felt called to reach out and invite you because our values are so aligned, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I hadn't heard your music until about a year ago when I was getting ready to start the channel. My friend Mikkel sent me a playlist with your music on it, and
Okay.
I was just blown away. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
how can she hear what I'm saying in my head?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. And then I went on your website and I read that you actually started in mental health too.
Mm-hmm. I sure did.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about the whole journey to where you are now.
Yeah, so the journey started with, it always starts with pain for me.
Mm.
Actually, let me reframe that. I won't say it always start with pain, but part of my journey has included pain many of times.
Mm.
And so I went to get my degree in psychology. And when I was pursuing my, academic career in psychology and neuroscience, I just became like kind of obsessed with human behavior. And I was just like, wow, like I understand why we behave the way we behave. Like we're programmable beings. And so when I learned about how childhood affects the shaping of your thought pathology and your mindset, I was just like, wow, like women need to learn about this because we don't get, you know, we don't get, how-to manuals on how to be human when we get here. So we're all just winging it, but psychology gives you some type of insight on how to navigate your own psychology. And so I was really passionate about educating people about their psychology so they can understand why they behave, so they can understand why they experience life the way that they do through their lens. And so I started my wellness company for women who were struggling with workaholism. So I took the approach of integrating, what I've learned from psychology, neuroscience into practical living of like well-being. And so I did that. I started the coaching business and I started creating events and experiences promoting this message around mental health, self-care, mastering your own psychology, and so on. And so I
Mm.
found myself kind of burning out a little bit, fast forward to 2018, and I was just doing this part time. Full time, I was working as a coach in high schools. The
Oh,
term that my role was considered called the dream director. I worked for a nonprofit that hired social entrepreneurs to go into high schools to improve school culture through like programming, events, coaching, and so on. And so fast forward to what I was saying in 2018, I was just finding myself very feeling overwhelmed by being so counterculture with my message.
mm.
Because in 2018, it was all about getting a bag, being a boss bitch, excuse my language, but it was just all about like in the sector that I was in, or the space that I was in was women's empowerment,
Mm.
African American women's empowerment, entrepreneurship, and hustle and bustle. And so which is essentially the American way, right?
Right.
And so I just found myself like, is my message not popular enough? Should I give up? And I was just like, God, you have to give me something that can help women understand that they can integrate well-being and work ethic so they don't have to compromise either one. And so through meditation and prayer, I got to download affirmation music. And I was like, oh my God, this is
Mm,
such a brilliant idea. And so
mm,
I went to Google to see like if that terminology was coined, and it wasn't coined. And I was just like so honored that I'm like, oh, I get to spearhead this terminology for this space of creating, conscious music that helps people talk to themselves better. And so I started finding, like, just going down the rabbit hole to see what musicians, what artists are creating music like this. And it just didn't resonate with me. It was like, I mean, to be frank, it was just not hitting the way that I like mainstream music. It was just like kind of the beats weren't hitting the way that, like, it's certain music that I would have on repeat that I will always like, Motown music, you know what I'm saying? That you would just have on repeat all the time. Beyonce, Destiny's Child, it's certain music that's just hypnotic, that's just becomes a part of your everyday lifestyle. And so I was like, I want to create like music that hits like that, that's hypnotic, that people just want to
mm.
push play every day but still be powerful. So I was like, how do I bridge powerful, conscious, healing, affirming music, but make it hot, make it hit, make it
Yeah.
undeniable, you know like mainstream pop music does. So I just started writing and went to California for a month. I brought all my journals, all my notebooks from retreats I went on, all the notes that I've taken, which was like probably like 10 books, journals, notebooks, and like a whole bunch of loose papers. And for a month in LA, I wrote affirmations for the grown ass woman. And I essentially just wrote that album for my clients. Like, I didn't have, it was never in my field of possibility of thinking that this was something I would do full time. And so in 2020, I closed down my coaching business, started a membership group, and then went into music full time. And so the rest is pretty much history. It's been a snowball kind of, I wouldn't even say snowball, it's been kind of like a rocket ever since. And so that's kind of a snippet of my journey of how I got into affirmation music.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. I love that sort of snowball that's been happening too. Just, I feel like you were called to do this, to make this pivot in your work and go full time in this direction at a time when people most needed it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it had to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
It had
really
to happen.
believe that whatever's meant for you is yours, right?
Yeah,
So, of course,
absolutely.
you fill the need, and you also got to follow your calling. You know,
Yes, absolutely.
that is so beautiful. And
Thank you.
I feel like one of the things I was worried about when I quit my last job last year was because I'd been self employed before. So
Hmm.
I was worried that I was going to go back to my workaholic ways and
Yeah,
just, be grinding, grinding for years, trying to get my new
right.
business off the ground. And
Hmm.
so when I heard your song Work Ethic, I
Mm,
was like, oh, yeah, that's the one.
that's the one, right?
So I'd listen to that every morning. So I get myself in the right mindset before I
Hmm.
started.
Hmm.
I mean, I just think that that whole message of workaholism that's sort of um, baked into our culture, into our colonized minds is deadly.
Yes, absolutely. It's
And
it's definitely
especially
that.
for women of color, because
Hmm.
we're sort of expected to do more from the day we're born.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I've lost a lot of friends who were very intense and had extreme workaholic tendencies um when they were in their 40s,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's very like I use this terminology a lot, being countercultural. The soft life, the intuitive life, the flow life is very countercultural because we've been indoctrinated with workaholism as a part of identity and a part of lifestyle. So
Mm-hmm.
we've normalized that. So people who are have opted into that body, mind, and soul, when they come across somebody who challenges that, it threatens their own safety, their own sense of identity, and their reality. So it's not personal. It's just like literally you become a threat when you are not the same, to people who, you know, their whole world is defined by performance and productivity. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're defining your world by being, and your wellness and your intuitive nature to source, it can feel violent to people. So it's understandable why friends and people who just find it conflicting to connect with you and keep you present in their lives. So it's definitely something that I've experienced. Some people that are close to me have experienced, and I definitely can relate to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh my God, that's such a good point. I feel like anytime I've entered any kind of counterculture community, um, it's really scared people who
Yeah,
are, just of the mainstream way of thinking. I
absolutely.
I found myself all through my life joining communities where really only like maybe 5% of the country were participating.
Mhm, mhm,
Like when
mhm,
I had my babies, I was nursing them, nursing them full time on demand, and I looked it up, and it was only 5% of women in America did that.
mhm.
I homeschooled my kids until they went to college, and that was about 5%.
Yeah, yeah.
and, and even those things which you would think people would encourage, because they're
Right,
good, healthy
right,
things, those people often found really threatening.
right,
You
right.
know, uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and
Mhm.
yeah, I raised my kids in the '80s and '90s, so now it's more acceptable to nurse your kids and homeschool, but back then that was really strange.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but this whole concept of being a successful business person and not running yourself into the ground, that's really revolutionary
It
still.
is. It is very revolutionary, but it's becoming almost it's like necessary right now
It is
because
necessary.
we don't have any more energetic grace to operate in the old paradigm anymore. The energetic grace is supporting flow, it's supporting ease, it's supporting you honoring your spirit, your body, your mind, what you intuitively discern, what you need. And so, because there is no more grace to operate in that old paradigm, people are finding themselves, their mental health completely compromised, their spiritual well-being completely compromised. You know what I'm saying? It's just that frequency of burning yourself out for
Hmm.
anything is no longer like it's no longer um it's no longer a space for it in this new paradigm of living and being a human being. So people are falling like flies. I mean, even me being someone who advocates this message, like I have to always be my on my toes about tending to my spirit every single day, tending to my body every single day, because there is a whole architecture, social architecture that supports us neglecting our spirit,
Hmm.
neglecting our own intuition. It's a whole infrastructure that is very strong and powerful. So we have to take that individual tenacity to enroll ourselves on a daily basis to our rituals, to our self care, to our mental health. Because, again, like I said, I can't emphasize it enough. There is no more energetic grace to operate in the way that the old world operated. It's no longer.
Right.
So when we try to do that, we'll just fall. And it depends on how we'll just fall on our face, and it depends on how often we want to keep falling, how hard we want to fall,
Mm,
how much we want to get hurt. It just we a lot of us understand there is no other way to survive and thrive without honoring your well-being, without honoring your spirit first. There is no other. It's no way around it.
mm.
You have to do that now. You have to be that now.
I believe that 100%. And
Or
I
you're
so,
or you're self-destruct.
yeah, I so relate to the daily practice of it. I feel like it's so easy for me to slide back into those old ways. Um,
Hmm.
I just have to be constantly vigilant, you know.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I have a when I started my new business and decided I wanted to do it a different way, I created a set of shop rules for myself, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I have it on the wall in front of
Hmm.
me on my desk. So just in case I
Hmm.
slide back, I can see right in front of me what I need to do.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
You want to hear them?
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, trust the creator, love and care for self, relax, spend time with friends and family,
Hmm.
spend time in nature, take inspired action, and receive wealth easily.
Beautiful.
Those are my daily rules that I need to live by. So,
Beautiful.
and I was scared at first. I thought, oh, geez, I could end up homeless if I follow these rules.
Yeah,
What if
yeah,
I don't, produce enough,
yeah.
Um, because I had saved some money before I left my job, but not a lot, maybe like three
Hmm.
months worth of expenses. So I was
Hmm.
really just having to trust and go
Hmm.
forward. And I told myself it's really okay. If you end up living in your Prius,
Hmm.
that's okay. Maybe that's what you're
Hmm.
supposed to do, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how many of percentage, how many people do you really believe in this country are on board with this way of thinking?
It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. I estimate, I feel like my answer to that question will contradict because there's a part of me that feels like there's more than we think,
Mm,
but then I also feel like it may be just a core chunk of us in the global population. Um, because what I have found that this way of thinking is trendy now.
mm-hmm,
So it is, and because it's trendy, people want to be socially accepted. So a lot of times, the way people are socially accepted or um, feel a sense of belonging is by opting into what the majority is thinking.
mm-hmm,
So I feel like a lot of people are talking about mental health. A lot of people are talking about well-being. A lot of people talking about self-care and self-love and so on. That's a strong, trendy theme right now. But as far as it has layers to it,
right.
because self-mastery and spiritually awakening includes all those things, but it's not defined by that. Like it's like self-mastery and spiritually awakening, um, it's a journey,
Yeah.
So I think there is a lot of people that are excited and opting into self-care, self-love, mental health, and well-being, which is good, which is a great step towards human evolution. But I think it's probably I don't want to say small, but it's a nice chunk of us who are on the path of self-mastery and spiritually awakening, because a lot of the mental health, self-care, self-love, and well-being can help you survive the day-to-day living, right? But when you choose self-mastery, when you choose spiritual awakening, my goodness, my goodness, it's a journey. Every day doesn't look the same. So there is no compromising well-being. There is no space to compromise self-care. There is no choosing whether you're going to take care of yourself today or not. You have to do it when you're on the path of self-mastery and spiritual awakening, because there are forces out here that that prey upon you being on the path of purifying your mind, your heart, your soul to your spiritual identity, which is being connected to source, being the great all. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mm-hmm.
I can't really give a definite numeral like answer, like a numerical answer to that. I just know that it's a lot of population, global population, that's about on board about being healthier. But I think it's a core chunk of us that are about self mastery and spiritual awakening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's really difficult to quantify. Um, I just was curious your opinion because I feel like I don't know. I don't know how old you are, but I imagine I'm much older.
I'm a
And,
thousand years old. I always answer that question and tell people I'm a thousand years old.
well, you know
I'm
when
a
I was a little girl, I always thought I was 103.
I feel like I'm a thousand years old going on 8 years old.
Yes,
Like it's like
yes.
I feel very ancient but very brand new at the same time.
But so I think when we're at different um, ages, we can have different perceptions because we have different people around us. Even though I do,
Absolutely.
because I raised a lot of kids in the 80s and 90s. I do have a lot of young people around me, but
hmm
still, I just was curious about your opinion about that because um, part of why I have so much hope for this time we're in is because, I learned the indigenous prophecies when I was a young person, and um, they said we were entering this new age in the mid 80s, and that, eventually, there was going to be this whole new heaven and earth where people were going to live in peace together and cooperate and all of that, right? But that it was going to take a critical mass, right?
hmm
And
hmm
some people who really geek out on this stuff have said that
hmm
we need 10% of the world's population for us to have a critical mass to really,
And that's not a lot.
right.
That's not a lot.
If you
And
think
I
about it, it's
That's
like,
not a lot. And that's why I think the music that I create and the music that others create that's conscious and that's healing. I think I there's a lot of us out here creating a lot of art and content that can influence the mass population.
mm-hmm,
But there is a core group of people that have mainstream appeal, you
right.
know? And so I think those of us who have mainstream appeal have the influence that's required to increase that 10% of the world's population, as you put it, you know?
Mm-hmm,
And so, because you have to, there's people out here that are creating amazing content, creating amazing music, but they're only for like black people, or they're only for white people, or they're only for esoterics and mystics, but to appeal to the mass population, you have to be, first of all, completely authentic yourself. You
mm-hmm,
have to embrace your multidimensional self, and you have to have elements that are appealing to the cultural ego, you know what I'm saying, like of capitalism, if you will.
yes.
You have to, so it's a very interesting, intricate recipe to influence the masses. And I've come to some practical thought about my role in that. And it's not easy for me to own it and accept it and surrender to, like, how those ingredients are part of me, and so it's a huge call and responsibility that I'm, as much as I've been in this space, um, it's still a constant surrendering to how major of a role that I play in this time, because it's like everybody just wants to enjoy their life. Everybody wants to just be happy. So I'm finding that balance in between of just living my life and not being so caught up in the depth of mission and purpose and, spiritual, you know, all the things, because part of your main purpose, because I truly believe the core purpose of being here is enjoying your life. There's
Hmm.
no greater call for a human being to find their way of enjoying their life on a deep, deep level, like on a spiritual level, like enjoying the simple things and finding the grand excitement and joy and thrill of just waking up and living life and counting your blessings like that. I think that's ultimately the purpose, is learning that lesson, being in your school to find where your sustainable joy lives, about enjoying earth and enjoying being in your body and enjoying life. Because a lot of times when you're on this path of self-mastery and spiritual awakening, you can find yourself living in the rabbit hole and can find yourself being depressed
Mm.
about living in the spiritual life, and where you can't enjoy people, you can't enjoy connection, you can't enjoy the simple pleasures. You see what I'm saying? Because you're so, when I grew up in the church, they used to say you're so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good,
Oh, wow.
so,
That's a good thing.
and so for me, the dance is discovering, like, no matter how I expand, grounding myself and, eating some pizza, and grounding myself enjoying music, grounding myself taking a day off and being human, being fully human, and knowing that my humanity is enough for my spiritual life and identity. That's why I came here, is to
Mhm.
express my spirituality in this human container, with all the variety of that's included in that duality of being spirit and being human and being the past and the present and the future and all the things and all the nothings, and just going back to the basics of, like, let me do my laundry, let me pay that phone bill, let me declutter a little bit, let me do some work, move my body, let me drink my water. Like, finding the spiritual power in the simplicity of living your day-to-day life with caring for yourself. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? That's just as powerful. That is just as enlightening as meditating for hours and hours and fasting and going to the retreats and learning all the ancient practices. It's just as powerful, because when you take care of you, you ground yourself as
Mhm.
you're awakening and as you're evolving and expanding your consciousness. So, that, at least that's the lessons that I'm learning. That's what I've been learning these couple years, and even currently in the season that I'm in now.
Mm. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. I feel like my recovery from workaholism started pretty young. I was about 16 when I was introduced to the concept that I am enough just as I am. Um, I'm worthy just for being here, not for, I don't need to do anything to be worthy.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so I was 16. Today I'm 56. And I feel like just in the past year, has been the first time in my life where I carried that knowledge consistently on a daily basis. Not that I'm perfect at it yet. I'm just saying that every day, most days, in most parts of every day, I feel that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it really was a journey, and
Yeah.
I didn't, I completely ignored my body. until I was 48. It
Mm,
took me to 48 to start caring for my body. And so
yeah,
that took a huge toll. But
I
I'm
can only imagine.
super grateful to be on a better path of what my friend Andrea Kanan calls exquisite self care.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It's the body is resilient. And once you have that new thought and you start to support it with actions, that new thought of self care, that new thought of like being mindful about your health and well being and fitness and so on and nutrition, you get to create a nice habitat for that new thought with your practice and with your intuition, because I think when you are having new thoughts later on in life or on the mature side of life, in your 40s, 30s, 50s, 60s, 70s, some people start in their 60s, it's important for us to lean to our intuitive nature to see what's true so we can have a healthy pace with our learning our habits and being gentle and graceful with ourselves as we are, practicing these new ways of being. So we want to have an honest pace with ourselves with when we have new thoughts, new ideas of how to relate to ourselves.
exactly. Oh my God, that's amazing. What are is all this amazing, brilliant information that you're sharing with the world? Is that um, coming from the source, or where is all of that coming from? Because
So
I just get
it's
blown away sometimes
I
by the
get blown
level
away
of
too.
knowledge that you carry. You know.
I get blown away too. A lot of it, you know, I've experienced a lot in life. I've experienced a lot, and I've lived many lives in this lifetime,
Mm,
and it's always pointed me just this. If I recall, like the process always cracks me open. It's just like a constant getting to the roots of things. And so when I'm cracked open, whatever I do, whatever I learn, whatever I read seeps in.
mm,
And then sometimes it is a cracking open on a cellular level to where data is opening up within me.
mm,
Um, the third piece is channeling. Like, because I allow myself to sit with the pain, because I allow myself to feel all the things, there's something about being a pleasurable vessel and habitat for divine knowledge, you know, not just to know, but to embody. And I
mm,
feel like my journey has been a process of downloading, learning, being a fan of what I know. And then, boom, life happens. And then I get the opportunity to embody what I know. You see what I'm saying?
mm,
So it is, to give you a simpler answer because it's so textured and layered, but to give you a simple answer, it is definitely source, but it also comes from source walking me through my life experiences, because it's not that I just survive my trauma. It's not that I just survive these life painful situations. It's I go back into them to grab the gold, to grab the lessons.
mm,
I go back in them and feel them with the lens of spirit to show me where is the gold. How do I go deeper, far past the surface level of the labels and the topics and the description of the pain and the trauma, and go deeper into what's truly happening. You know what I'm saying? Where's the wisdom in it? Where is the blueprint of healing? You see what I'm saying? And so what I found is I come out with these words
mm,
and with these emotional understandings. and with these translations of ancient, very ancient knowings, and translate them in a way that lands for the modern day mind, or make comprehensive for the everyday modern day mind, if you will.
Mm.
So I mean, it's like it's no better answer than yes, they are completely sourced. But that's kind of like the breakdown of how it all happens. I mean, I have songs now. I was just listening to Energy Budget the other day,
Oh,
and I had to grab my heart because Energy Budget was not practiced in a part of my life for the past year and a half, and I was completely like humbled by that song. It was just like, it's amazing how you can still be the channeler, that vessel of a message, but still be a absolute student of your message, and you can be getting a D in your message, a C, a B, or an A, but you're still a student. You
yes.
see what I'm saying? And so it's a very humbling, it keeps me very humble, in the work that I do, and in my practice for sure. But I have to give all credit to Source, the Most High, that's
Hmm.
living within me, that keeps me, in this space of being a vessel, um, no matter what season of life I'm in.
Yes. Yes. Well, and we live in this world. We're multi-dimensional beings living on Earth, and so
Yeah.
we are going to sometimes be influenced by the things that are happening around us.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
unless we're gonna shut ourselves away like monks,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not my preference. I love people.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I'm happy to embrace the challenge of being um, around people who don't think the way that I do and who don't live the way that I do. It's okay. And if I have
Hmm.
to keep reminding myself to take care of myself in different ways, that's okay.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
over time, I've just gotten better and better. And so,
Yeah, I'm learning how to do that. I'm learning how to do that. I'm learning how to honor my sacred being and being selective of who I'm around, but also being fluid with being able to be around a variety of people, because I am a people person. I'm just, with the season I'm in right now, it just requires a little bit of hermit mode, and
uh-huh.
some being introverted. It's very new for me to be like this, but every now and again, I have to go within and be in solitude and monitor how public I am with myself, because I'm still a work in process, if you
Hmm.
will.
Hmm. Well, I think we all are, those of us who are embodied, because if we weren't a work in process, we would not be here, right?
Right, right,
we
absolutely,
we'd already have
absolutely,
graduated to
yeah.
pure love, right? Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I think it's really okay for us to notice that we are carrying really um, deep and meaningful work, and we're also learning. You know,
Absolutely.
mm. Have you thought about taking this recipe that you found to appeal to the masses and teaching others how to
So I
do
have
it?
a membership group
Ah,
that I have a membership group that I've had for a year and a half, but I'm in transition on like what my actual values and services are
okay.
for my members. Like, I'm going through a healing process right now, and some things are changing, like on how I want to show up. So definitely want to create I definitely want to create some more value for my audience so they can be in the practice, in the way that I found is true for me, and see if it lands and resonates for them. Because a lot of people are curious to, like, Toni, how did you get this way? Like, how are you like this? Like, what is your journey like? Who did you follow? Who did you get taught by? People want to subscribe to what has helped me along my journey. So I am definitely restructuring my membership space, but I do provide offerings and group coaching in that space because I did do one-on-one coaching and it wasn't true for me to show up in that way anymore. So now it's like this membership space that where you have access to me all the time. You can DM me. You can tap into our like pre-recorded affirmation meditations. I have a lot of content in there because it's been going on for a year and a half. But again, I'm pivoting right now to create more value and create more sustainability. So the people that do join and the people that are already members, are finding more just value in the space. I just
Mhm.
feel it's very true to create more value because right now we have affirmation meditations, and because it's a conversation based membership. It's not a whole lot of curriculum, not a lot of whole how to's because I feel like we're overly informed already.
Right.
But I think people still want to subscribe to some information on the practice and how I practice. So, people want to learn from me. So, it's like, why not share what I've learned and how I practice in my journey, spirituality, self-care, and just what I'm learning. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I show up. And then I also speak. Like a lot of my bookings and just are not just performing. Sometimes it's fire chats, it's workshops, it's keynote speaking. People just want to hear, and that's really my jam. Like I like performing. It's all new for me, the music space, but my jam is getting in front of an audience with a mic in my hand and telling
Mhm.
people what's up, telling them the real, whether it's about self-care, self-love, spiritual awakening, like my own struggles, my own deepness, shadow work, like just being raw with them and connecting with them in a relationship style and letting them know like, hey, I'm in this with y'all. I'm teaching, but I'm also a student. Like I'm a peer, as we go through this journey of with these new thoughts about taking care of ourselves and balance and navigating capitalism, but also like free, free thinking and spiritual living. So yeah, I definitely have found a home in, providing a space for people to have community around the message that I share, but
Mhm.
also like going out into the world, into the masses for events and, retreats and so on to share and teach, the knowledge that I have found in my journey.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I still go out and do speaking engagements and trainings and retreats because I love it. To me that's effortless. Actually way easier than editing a YouTube video for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad you're out there doing that. Do you have any live events coming up?
I have some. I have to put them on my website, IamToniJones.com. I definitely have some bookings in August. I definitely have some like LA, Atlanta, Seattle. So I'll be posting those up next week of all the dates that have been confirmed with booking me. So yeah.
Cool. Cool. I'll put them up on
Okay,
uh,
excellent.
the
Yeah,
screen
and if
so
and
people
people can
know.
find me, people can definitely find me at IamTonyJones.com. They can get hip to my YouTube channel and my membership group is on there. So yeah,
That's so awesome. I love it
thank
so
you.
much. Oh my god, you're such a gem. Like
Thank
I
you so much.
so appreciate and deeply admire your work. And
Thank you.
if there's any way I can support anytime, you just let me know.
Yeah, just share the membership. Share the membership and
Absolutely.
see with, it's predominantly for women. I will be eventually expanding it to a unisex space because I definitely feel called to the family unit. Like I really feel like I'm going to be expanding from predominantly women to just the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's where we're headed, where it's no longer divisive. It's And again, men need their sacred spaces and women need their sacred spaces, but there's not enough unisex empowerment if in
Yes.
modern day society. And you know, the masculine and feminine is the divine balance in life.
Mhm.
So eventually, it'll get there. But right now, um, it's the women talking to
Mhm.
the women. So share
Well,
the membership as much as it feels true.
oh yeah, and women tend to lead during times of change anyway.
Are you
You know,
kidding me? Absolutely.
so
Like it's this is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we do. It's just it's such a old narrative, class. I won't say old narrative, but a classic narrative.
mhm,
That times like this, when the men mess it up, guess who comes in, heals it? The women, the
mhm,
feminine. Whereas
mhm,
right now, that's what's happening right now. The feminine is healing
mhm.
everything right now, and so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I feel like you get to the woman, you get to the feminine, you get to the core of humanity, because
Mhm.
that is where all humanity came from.
Right. And when
Yeah,
people are looking to empower uh third people in third world countries, they give to the women. They send the women to school, they give women microloans, and they bring the whole community up, you know.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
just what we do. That's
Yeah,
what happens.
that's what we do. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you again so much
Yes, you're
for
welcome.
coming on Hopeful Tribe. It was a huge dream of mine. And
Yes, you're welcome.
it was a joy, and I
Thank you
love
for
how
having me.
color coordinated.
We color
We didn't even call
coordinated.
each other.
No, we didn't even. It's all spiritually led.
Yeah,